Good evening, remnants out there. Welcome to another Speaking Our Truth. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for taking the time out to support. Um, this is a place where we just come together, and the main idea is to just be as transparent as we can, just to encourage and empower other women. And so tonight, this evening, is just a something light, something easy. The ladies, my lovely ladies, thank you for accepting my invitation. You ladies are in for something tonight because tonight I just wanted to talk, right? And so I have here a box of questions, right? And in this box, yeah, it's a bunch of questions. And the questions are not yes or no, they are actually discussion questions to and it's not right or wrong. It's based on you, your experience, your truth, right? And so we are going to get into this. All the viewers out there, all the remnants out there, please say hello. Drop an emoji, a hello in the comments. Let me know who is out there watching. Let me know who is joining in on the conversation this evening. So before we begin, though, right? Ladies, I was telling you before we aired, right? About this person I discovered. There was something I discovered about someone, right? And it happens to be one of our guests. And I found out that one of our guests is an author. Hey, Julie, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. And so, Julie, what I was saying is we have an author on our panel, right? And when I saw this video that she posted on social media, I was like, "Oh my God, how did I not know that? How did I miss that?" So, do you want to reveal yourself, author, or do you want me to pull the rest?
I'll reveal myself. So I'm an author. I'm coming out with my first book April 16th. It is called Poetically Incorrect Words After Freedom. And it's a series of poems chronicling my my life in an abusive relationship, coming out of it, dating after divorce, and then kind of finding and rebirthing my self-esteem. So it's a collection of some of my favorite poems that I've written kind of fairly recently over the past few years. And the book, it's a book, but it's also has some audio-visual performances in there. So on some of the pages, you'll be able to scan a QR code, and it'll take you to a video of me reciting the poem.
Nice.
Um, if you want to purchase the book,
Yay! She's letting us buy it, y'all.
um, you saw that deep breath before I said that. If you want to purchase the book, you can do so on my website, and the website is www.drkimberlylynn.com, and that is DRKIMBERLYLYNNE.com.
I'm glad you spelled it out for us. But I am going to have the information up for everyone who would love to support, like I know you do. Hey, Trish. So we're going to go into this box right here. Who wants to go first? Or who wants to go up first? Or do you want me to randomly just put it out there for y'all? How do you want to do it? You want me to pick people?
I guess you could do randomly.
Okay. Just put the question out there.
I guess if we
Hey,
all agree
Laquana, how
to
are you?
randomly.
What'd you say, Michelle?
No, I was saying, I guess if we all agree to randomly, you could just do
Okay.
randomly.
I agree.
All
Like
right. So
Sounds
here
random.
good.
we go.
Sounds
I,
good.
I, all right. So I don't know what question is going to come up. Okay. So we have our first one. Okay. Do you think love is something you can't control or something you choose to do? Like, is it? I've heard of love with the butter, you get butterflies. Some people think it's butterflies in the stomach. Some people think it's electric. To you ladies, do you think love is something you cannot control, like it just hits you? Or is it something you choose to do? Who wants to be first?
I'm laughing because it's it's a question, like it's twofold to me, because there
Mm-hmm.
have been instances in my life where I thought I loved, and it was an electric, I thought it was an electric thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are instances where I believe I chose to love. However, I believe at this point in time, I now think that I understand what love truly is. And back then, I didn't. I didn't. And I'm talking about unconditional love, right? So I believe we can choose to love, and we can choose not to love. We can choose to be cold by putting up barriers from past hurt and, you know, past situations that we've been in. And there's some that tend to block it and choose not to. And then there are some instances where you can't help yourself because you're attracted to someone, but you're trying not to let it be love because of your past experience. So it's
Mm.
twofold for me still, I believe. But in terms of the of understanding love, I think it's completely different for me now how I look at loving someone.
Love, that's tricky. Love is definitely a tricky subject.
Yeah.
You want to say something, Kim?
Yeah, I think falling in love isn't something that you can't control. And we're talking about romantic love, of course. I think falling in love is something you can't control, but I think continuing to love is a choice
Mm.
that you have to make. But yeah, I think falling in love is probably the easier thing because that's the butterflies and all the fun, cute stuff. But then, when the cute stuff goes away, I think it becomes a choice at that point.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
I agree with what Marcia said. Sometimes people block that, and they even block the process of falling in love too sometimes. But certainly, when it's time to choose to love, if people haven't healed from certain hurts, they'll block that and decide not to love.
Mm. Love. This all I've learned that there's actually the different kinds of, like, so far when I'm hearing you ladies speak, I'm thinking about the different types of love that I was taught, growing, and especially as a believer in Christ, right? So there's the love that is required, or that is desired, right, to be shared amongst amongst everyone, and that is the agape. That's the preferred, right? We You ladies know about the agape love, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the all that, right? So what I do know about this, and y'all ladies help me understand this too, chip in with what you know. But agape is the kind of love, and I think kind of what goes into agape and makes it agape is the choice to say, you know what, I'm gonna love you. Because I'm thinking about instances where you don't know someone, right? You don't know someone. Kimberly, I was about to call you Doc. Can I call you Dr. Kim, please? Because I feel like you work for that title, and so
Right.
I'm going to give it to you. Okay? Can I do that?
No.
So, like Dr. Kim said, you fall in love, right? But what about, like, recently we just went through the whole racism, or we're actually still going through it, but the bout with it. Um, Racism, racism is, I think, here because there are people that are choosing not to love people, right? Agape, again, we're talking about agape, choosing to love. Like Dr. Kim mentioned her book about her story, about her being in an abusive relationship. Um, Dr. Kim, let me ask you this. I don't mean to pick on you. When you were when you were in this relationship, was there a point where you had to choose the love? Like, do you still love this individual, or is this something where you have to choose to be at a distance, but you still love this individual?
In the marriage, yeah, I had to choose to continue to love him, to be there. Of course, with all the other stuff that goes into abuse, like the manipulation and stuff like that. But aside from that, I had to choose to love him, to stay there. At this point, I care about him, if he lives or dies. But I don't think there's any love there. I care about him. I love him like I do people that I've never met. Um, and that's something I've had to do to heal,
Mm.
and move past that whole situation. But yeah, definitely in the marriage, I had to make a choice, sometimes daily, to choose to love him.
Mm. Love, I told y'all, love is tricky. Love is tricky because, yeah, love is also something that the word itself has been watered down, and I think that's what contributes to, um, I guess, what do you call it, dumbing down its effect, because love is supposed to be something that actually changes lives and changes people. And yeah, it's tricky, y'all. Love is something that I learned you don't want to get into unless you know it's full, what do you call it, power, should I say. And so, did anyone else want to contribute on this love subject, or do we go on to the next question?
I actually think that love is also a test of your strength too,
Mm,
in certain instances, well, in all instances, because I'm going to the side of choosing right now. So you can choose, um just talking about what Dr. Kim was just referring to, being in a situation like that and choosing to still love that person, having neighbors that are not quiet or rowdy, you're choosing to still love on them, having uh co-workers or bosses or just associates, and just choosing to love them. It's a test of your strength. It's a test of your character as well. That despite what is happening around you, despite what someone is doing to you, that because you know who you are and because you know who you're endeavoring to be, that you're going to be strong. You're going to be strong enough to not let that person, because when you choose to not like someone or not love someone or hate someone, to even go deeper, I believe you bring a certain amount of weight on yourself. Because when you see that person and you are feeling discomfort, when you're in that environment and you're feeling uneasy, you're putting yourself through something that you really don't need to be going through. So when you decide to love on that person, and when you're in that person's environment and it does not affect you, that they're there or that you see them, that is a strength of who you are. That is showing that you're growing, that you are mature, that you're not lowering your standards to theirs. And instead of you feeling uncomfortable, they're the ones probably feeling uncomfortable, but you can walk with your head held high, knowing that you're loving on that person. You don't have to love close. You can love from a
mm.
distance.
I was thinking
you
that
know
boundaries.
we've
Yeah.
been taught that, right? And we love by just, if we see someone fall down on the street, or if we see someone in need of food, or something, we can love from a distance and provide for that person. We don't have to be best friends, and we don't have to be in the same space every day. But I believe that is a true test of your character and
Mm.
your strength, as to if you're growing, you know
Yeah. Now that sounds like when you take it there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle. You want to say something before I run
No,
my
I was
mouth?
gonna say. No, I was gonna say I actually agree with Marcia when she said that you can love from a distance, because throughout life you will have people, family members, friends, co-workers, that may hurt you consistently, and you may have a certain type of love for that person. And if that love is not received the way you're giving love, like sometimes you have to, I guess, fall back. And like Marcia said, you can love people from a distance. You don't have to be around them all the time, because if you find yourself giving more than what the other person is giving, you're gonna go crazy. You're gonna
Mhm.
go crazy, and you're gonna be fighting with yourself to say, like, what am I doing wrong? Because even in friendships, relationships, it's still work, whether it's with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or whoever. Relationships are really hard because you're working with two individuals who aren't the same.
Right.
So I've learned too that you can love someone from a distance, and you don't have to be around that person all the time. You don't have to put up with certain things that they're projecting on you. As long
Mhm.
as you love yourself and you know that you can love that person and not be around them and tolerate certain things, that's where love becomes a choice at. You're choosing
Hmm.
to love this person, but from a distance.
So it sounds like love in its essence, like it it really doesn't have anything to do with the other person. Just like forgiveness, because when you're talking, just like forgiveness, when you forgive someone, other than it being a show of love, and it's showing your strength, it's actually all about who you are. Because I was thinking about how, like, let's say because I'm in a situation myself, right? And sometimes I wonder, if this person calls me up and says, listen, I need some help, can you help me out? Even though we haven't spoken forever, even though things has happened or whatever, am I able to, step outside of that situation to be able to extend this love or this help? I oftentimes think about that, and then I have to say to myself, well, then, Nora, wait a minute. Who are you? You are someone who naturally, I love loving on people. And then when I think about that, I'm like, all right, you know what? Yeah, let me show this love. And not only that, but again, the power. I mentioned about the power of love, and how, love is one of the effects of love. When you show it, is supposed to be, you're supposed to see the evidence in the other person's life. But maybe that's a topic for another day, ladies. That's what that sounds like. Y'all ready for the next question? Mm. Oh, I'm not even supposed to be looking, y'all. Sorry. Okay. What is a relationship deal breaker for you? What is a relationship deal breaker for you? Is it like, you dating someone and then you guys go out, and this person has a tendency to chew with his mouth open, and so because of that, you cannot be with this person. It's over. Like, what do each of you do? You have, first of all, do you have a deal breaker? Do you go into relationships? Let's start with that one. Do you go into relationships with certain standards, with wavering standards when you go in relationships? Oh, y'all
Well,
ladies weren't ready for this, right? Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
well, since I'm haven't dated in like 20 years, maybe the other ladies can answer like what's deal breakers. I'm like, wait, so
Michelle, that's no excuse. Come
I
on,
know, right?
talk about
So
before the
in
20
a
years. What
marriage,
happened?
I guess, in a marriage, I guess deal breakers. I mean, I had a couple deal breakers. I mean, but I guess, and that's kind of hard because I can't even remember back that far when we were dating. But
Wow, Michelle.
but 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 I what drives me crazy about my husband, he was a procrastinator. You know what I'm saying? As far as taking care of business and stuff like that. So he used to procrastinate. So over time, I helped him instead of me complaining about it all the time. I helped him and showed him, you know, the benefits of not procrastinating. So,
Mhm.
you know, procrastinating and not taking care of things, that just drove me insane. But I haven't been on a date. I mean, I date him, but I haven't been on a date in, so long. So
It's been that long, Michelle. Like, well, there's some people who broke the deal before the 20 years, so it's and I came back. And let me just tell the viewers, remnants out there watching, tuning in, supporting, please forgive us because they my guests were not ready for these questions. They are random questions, and so I'm just throwing it out there because I just really just wanted to come and talk. No topic, no agenda. So that's where this is coming from. And so this particular question, I remember talking to someone. They were like advising me or encouraging me or whatever. And one of the things that they mentioned was that when it comes to two people and what keeps a relationship together or breaks or whatever, it's basically what you will allow in a relationship, what it is about the other person that you may or may not consider when staying with them or whatever. I don't know. But I guess that threw away the first question because we talked about love and choosing, right? So, deal breakers. Ladies, Dr. Kim, Marcia A. Lewis, let's go. Deal breakers.
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go. In any relationship, whether it be with a male or, my girlfriends, friends, family members, I think a deal breaker for me is honesty. I love being honest. I speak, you know me, Nora. I don't speak unless I truly have something to say. And whatever I have to say, it's going to be the truth, and therefore you have to have the skin to take it. And that's all I really want to hear. I might not like what you have to say to me immediately, but I'll get over it in a day or a few hours or something. But I prefer to hear the truth. I'm pretty straightforward, and so I like honesty in any relationship that I have. And I think that's what holds me with my friends, people that I call friends. I don't have many. I have many acquaintances, but though for those who I call friends, it is something that I observe. I truly look for in them before I can say, yes, they are my friend. Honesty. And once I see that they maintain that, and it's not something that they're choosing to do like love, but it's something that they live by, um, that's what makes me allow them to get close to me, whether it be a male or female or family or whatever. So honesty is a deal breaker for me. I look for that. It's important to me. It's key for me. I believe that that really holds a relationship together really well. And once you have that, along with other things, other things
Of
have to
course.
come with that, to maintain a relationship. But that's one of my deal breakers for sure.
Yeah, Danielle Thomas. Danielle Thomas is tuning in. Hey D. She says the same thing, dishonesty. And then she mentioned disrespect as well. I think honesty, that's a glue. Okay. That's a huge one. Just imagine being in a relation, and I like how Marcia A. Lewis, you went, it could go anyway. When we're talking about any relationship, like once that honesty is broken, man, how do you like go on after that? You know what I mean? Go ahead, Dr. Kim. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, honesty is a big one. For me, when I think about relationship deal breakers, if I'm thinking about a romantic relationship, and probably a friendship too, differing political beliefs can be a deal breaker for me. And differing, and it depends on how deep those beliefs are. That can be a deal breaker, and differing beliefs about racism and things like that. Those are things I'm passionate about. So if we can't see eye to eye on that, and if they're not, because I'm willing to hear other perspectives and learn. If they're not willing to hear and be open, that's a deal breaker for me. Also, judgmental people,
Mm,
that's a deal breaker. So I'm somebody who I can kind of see myself in everybody, so it keeps me grounded. So there's nobody I think I'm better than or anything like that. So if I encounter people who can be elitist or who think that they're better than people, that's a deal breaker. I can't really get down with people like that.
Listen,
So those things, like those things, are deal breakers.
that's interesting. Wow. You remind me of I remember with the past election. I know of people that have broken off long relationships because of what you mentioned, the political views. Some people, one person is going with this candidate, and then this other person is going with this candidate, and when they found out, it was like done. And I'm like asking them, oh my God, like I'm talking about years. They've been friends for years. And I'm like, really? You broke off your friendship with this person because of their opinion? Like, but
Yeah,
who am
for
I to
me,
say? Go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
for me, like that means at your core, you're not somebody who I think I need to be around. For me, like on those political beliefs and even all that stuff, like at your core, you're not a person that I need to be around. And not that I'm better than them. It's just
We
we
don't.
don't in each
The
other's lives.
views.
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I didn't even look at it. I was looking at it from the surface or from another angle. Like, wow, friendship. I thought, the love and the bonding that was put into it to make it last for so many years, and for something like an opinion. And but what you said makes total sense, because I guess, if I'm not mistaken, you're looking at it from um like based on their opinion. You are taking that, and you're pretty much deducing like where someone is coming from,
Right.
right? Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
their belief
Right.
system, and
Right.
who they really are, and how they view people, and those types of things. To me, that all goes into that for
I
me.
get it. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
get it. That's yeah, politics is one of those things that, yeah, that's a big deal. Big politics. What's another big one? Religion.
Religion. Yeah.
Religion,
Religion.
that's another huge one. um you talking about my mama, that's, no, I'm just kidding, but we're talking about deal breakers. Hey, Val is online supporting y'all. And Valerie says, if a person is demeaning to her, if I put them in check and they continue with that behavior, male or female, she said bye. I hear you,
Right.
Val. And Val mean it,
Right.
y'all. She mean it. When she
Right.
say bye, she mean it. And I get that, because it's like, how can you continue? Now it becomes a point, like, now I got to protect myself. Now I got to protect my feelings. You continuing means you are not even looking at that aspect. And so therefore, there goes the boundaries. I
You
love
know,
you from a distance. Go ahead, Michelle. Sorry.
I'd say another deal breaker is loyalty. In a relationship, if from a romantic standpoint, relationship, if you're being loyal to your partner's not being loyal to you, that is a deal breaker for me, because sometimes we find ourselves being loyal to the wrong people, and then they're not, being loyal back to you. That can be hurtful. Also, too, let's say, for example, if you are in a situation where let's say you don't get along with your in-laws, or another family member or something like that, and you feel like your spouse isn't taking your side, or just
Mm,
basically sticking up for you, that can be a deal breaker too in relationships. So the
that
loyalty
is.
is definitely important, and not to say that you're always right, but
Mm.
somehow you have to figure it out, so everybody can get along, or we're just going to love from a distance. But loyalty is very important.
That makes total sense. That's one of those, you have to definitely be in it to know or do you, because just imagine, there's conflict, and then the person who is supposed to be, you know, by your side through thick and thin and all, it's
Right,
like, where you at? Where are you?
right.
And that's not a
Exactly.
good feeling, y'all. That's not a good feeling. But yeah, on to the next, ladies. Here we go. Here we go. And here we go. Okay. Okay, hold on, y'all. Dana Michelle. Hey, Dana, how are you? She says a deal breaker for me is no sense of family. We all have our family drama. The disrespect, the lack, where's that? The lack of care, concern, family. That's a deal breaker. Don't mess with my kids, y'all. Don't do that. My kids are my family. If you love me, please love. You gotta love them too. That goes without mention. Thank you, Dana. Here we go, ladies. Name something. Hmm. Name something you've observed that most women tend to learn after it's too late. Or do you want to get personal and say, what I've learned late that I want to share with others so they don't learn late is come on, one of those lessons, ladies, talk to us, talk to me. What is something, is it a question? Name something you've observed that most women tend to learn after it's too late. There's a whole, there's so much out there. Where do we begin? Uh,
You know what?
mm,
You were what you spoke about before, I believe brought me back to love. And even the question that you're posing now brings me back to love, but in another way where loving ourselves, that we tend to
mm,
learn after, that we are to love ourselves first before we can love someone else, whether it be
mm,
friend, or an intimate relationship. We have to know how to love ourselves first, because if we don't, we can't truly love someone else. We really can't. And that's one of the things personally I learned some years ago, uh, that I thought I loved myself, but I really didn't, because I was putting uh, what the other person wanted before who I truly was, who I truly
mm,
knew, who I am. I was as making myself someone who I wasn't. That's what it
mm,
boils down to. And that just told me, later, that I didn't love myself. And that's why that happened. I don't know. What's your thoughts on
mm,
that, ladies?
Mm. What I've learned is you can't change someone. They're going to have to want to change or
Y'all
fix
saying some
whatever
stuff
issues that they
tonight.
have. So what I've learned is I have to work on me, like Marcia said. I have to love me. You cannot change your mate, or if we're talking, romantically, you can't change your mate. You cannot fix their issues. It's up to them to want to fix their issues. So
Mm,
that's what I've learned, just years. You just can't change anybody. You have to leave it in God's hands. You have to pray on it. You can help them, you can work with them, but you cannot change anybody. So
mm,
don't go into a relationship saying, "Oh, this is this," and "Oh, maybe he'll change," or same thing with a female, or maybe she'll change. It doesn't work like that.
mm,
You
mm,
can't you
mm,
can't change anybody. And when a person is ready to deal with their issues, that's when you'll see things start to change. When they want to start working with their issues, not when you want them to. So
mm. Y'all, y'all are talking some stuff this evening. I think I'm sorry, Dr. Kim, you wanna add to that? Because I
Like
always like to
as,
give y'all a
as
chance.
y'all are talking, I'm
I
like,
know.
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
yep, that's it. And
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like that's it. We just
that's it.
rounded it up, right?
Yes. And for me, so I'm always learning um stuff. So I don't like I'm like every day and
right.
I'm really self-reflective. So then I'm trying to always be like, okay, let me figure this out. For me, something that I learned later in life, I guess, is how your family affects your relationships. How certain things, and let me just say I have an amazing family if y'all are watching. But no, I have an amazing family. I really do. And I think, we all do. And people, our parents, they do the best that they can. But I think something I learned later in life is certain things that we accept in relationships um, that are not good are just familiar. And I think that it's very important to kind of unpack the things that we accept in relationships that are negative but familiar, and realize that they are negative, and kind of figure out where that comes from and how to not accept things like that. And I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, that was something that I kind of learned later in life is, okay, you accept this behavior from people, not just romantic relationships, but from people in general. You accept this because it's familiar to you. You're used to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, these types of relationships. So then you don't necessarily seek them, but when you find them, or when they happen, you're comfortable in being controlled, or you're comfortable in being super independent, or you're comfortable in certain things that are not always positive. So for me, that's something that I've learned later in life, is that, yeah, these things are familiar, but they're not positive.
That's another heavy hitter. And I know exactly what, because it's what statistics tend to want to show when it comes to issues like abuse, right? um Something like a child is exposed
Mm-hmm.
to parents fighting, right? They're just grown children are just growing up and seeing this thing often, right? They're seeing, first of all, two people that they love and that they respect and that they hope, they're watching these two people go at it, right? And the way the mind works is like something like what you're saying, that it captures these things. And at that point, growing up, a child growing up at that point, they don't really necessarily, and I'm not a therapist, y'all. I'm just even trying to figure out myself, because that is something like I thought about. I had to do a self reflection on when it came to the healing process. Part of the healing process was to think, Nora, why do you keep getting in these kind of relationships? All right, I get it. What they're doing is horrible, but there has to be a reason why you keep landing in these situations. And it wasn't until I sat down, I reflected, and I'm like, oh my God, this was actually something I was used to seeing. I was, if it wasn't, I had aunts, uncles, like it was just around me, the culture, it was just around me. And so when I was in the relationships is right, going through it, it was like, wait a minute, it was something that it seemed familiar. Like when I'm in it, it hurt. I'm feeling the pain, I'm crying. But when it comes to leaving the situation, it's that familiarity that kept me
Yeah.
there, kind of. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is that it, Dr. Kim? Like, that's basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it goes further than what you're used to. Like my parents never yelled at me. I'm not a yeller. They're not yellers. They never hit me. But I ended up in an abusive relationship, and so it's like, well, how did that happen? And so once I started to unpack it, I was like, oh, okay, so it was this little thing here that was familiar, but also not healthy. That I was like,
Mm.
okay, this is kind of like
Hmm.
home. And then of course it went to levels that I wasn't familiar with, but then that little piece of familiarity kept me. So yeah,
Hmm.
stuff like that keeps you, and so that kind of I figured that out later in life, a few
Later
years
in
ago.
life.
There's
Yeah,
something else that I figured out too, is that we compromise our standards just for affection. And that's how we end up in some of these relationships, right? Because we are thinking that we are in need of affection and we can only get this from the opposite sex. We can only
Mm.
get that affection from, you know, um, someone that we'll have a relationship with. Uh, and so we jump into this thing and compromise because we have standards, but then we lower those standards or we start negotiating with ourselves to say, I can wait this out. Michelle was talking about change. I can wait because they'll perhaps change when they get to know me better. But no, as Michelle said, they're not going to change unless they want to or unless they're ready. And so we have to be mindful not to lower our standards, not to
Mhm.
compromise anymore, but to know who we are. What do I want in life?
Mhm.
How do I desire it to be? And, just if you need to write it down, some of us need to write things down to remember.
Yeah.
Some of us need
Mhm.
to post it on our mirrors to remember. So, when we get up in the morning and this person comes whispering at our ears and telling us sweet nothings, and, we
Mhm.
don't get giddy headed and fall too quickly, you know, because they're saying something right, or it sounds right at this time, or it feels right at this time. But does it all add up
Right. And that's
to
why it's very
what my
important to
standards
get
are?
standards. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why it's very important. Some people you mentioned forget, some people don't even have standards, and they're just jumping in. And I don't like that is something that cannot be stressed hard enough. Like women, please, ladies, get standards. Maintain your standards. We're not saying go crazy. We're not saying that unless he, I only like a man with low haircuts, and someone with a high top fade come your way, you dissing them. No, that's not what we're really talking about. We're talking about, like, ladies, you know, uh ladies, what are some of your standards? Let's do it this way. What are some of your standards? Can we do that, y'all? Because if there's, in case we have any viewers watching that were like me, in time past, and didn't have standards, just was looking for love, looking to fill voids, and so just jumping in anything that smiled at me or whatever. For viewers who may be in that place, thank God for deliverance. Okay. But for viewers or people who may watch that don't know what standards are, or what you know what are some of your standards? Let's help somebody out. What are some of your standards? Like me, please don't, please don't, like, please don't disrespect. Like, we Danielle, shout out to Danielle again. She talked about her deal breaker being disrespect. Please don't do that. Only because I want to consider myself respectful, and I give chances, and I will hear what you have to say. I will even look at you and say, whatever I need to say in order for me to love you or whatever. But please don't be like that. Why we gotta be like that? Don't disrespect me, please. Um, that is one of my standards. And I didn't have that before. I didn't have that. That was one of those things that, a guy spoke to when I'm hooked and he starts talking to me a certain way. I was not the one in time past. I was like, oh no, don't talk to me like that or whatever. So, ladies, your standards.
Nor I believe you started it off right. Your deal breakers can become your standards. You
Right.
can use those. Use
Hmm.
those, because if those are what deter you from a relationship or
Hmm.
friendship, then those are actually your standards, because those are the things that would let you walk away or turn away.
Hmm.
So I would use those. Um, I
That
believe
makes sense.
I've bucked my toe, a few times, and I want the ladies or the persons out there that are listening not to believe that we on this line are perfect. We're not. We're
Right.
perfectly imperfect,
I
and
like that.
so we are setting our standards as we go along too. As we see those deterrents, as we realize what those things are that are unattractive to us, then that is added on to our list. So that's what I would say. As you go along, you add on to your list, because
I like
every
that.
year, every month, we're growing, our bodies
Right.
are changing,
Right.
our minds are changing, the environment is changing, and therefore your standards should be enhanced as you go along. That's what I would
Right.
think. So add on
That
to your
makes sense.
list, use the deterrence as a starting point, and move from there.
I
Your
like that.
standards do change as you go along. I totally agree, because I think the more you know yourself, the more you know what are deal breakers, what are standards. If you don't really take that time to know who you are, then that's kind of, I think, when you accept get for I'll speak for myself. When I didn't take time to know who Kimberly was, that's when I was just accepting anything, like, oh, okay, he's cute. Oh, and he makes me laugh. Good enough. But I
Mhm.
think once I took the time to, like, get to know who I was and what things speak to me and what matters most to me, then that's when I'm like, okay, this is not going to work, and I'm not even entertaining this
I like
because
that.
of these things.
Hmm.
But that came from, and that's like what Marcia was saying. That to me, that came from like self knowing myself and kind of knowing myself and what I like about myself.
Yeah. And also too with standards, like Marcia said, you take the things that you don't, want to accept. And then when you're in a relationship, depending on how long you're in the relationship, you can set new goals together with your partner. So as the relationship is growing and you're learning yourself and things are changing, at each stage, you can also set different standards and different goals. So it kind of all works hand in hand together. But like you girls said, no disrespect, the honesty, the loyalty, like all that kind of wraps up into, in the beginning standards, like what you won't tolerate. Like Nora, you mentioned disrespect. Disrespect, it's so many things that go under disrespect,
Right.
the way
Right.
someone talks to you, the way they, like we talked about earlier, them not being loyal, to you, that's a form of disrespect. Putting their hands on you, that's a form of disrespect. Constantly lying to you, not being honest, all that falls under disrespect. So if you set a certain standard, and I think someone in the comments said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them, that's a
Mm-hmm.
true statement, because that also falls back into what I said earlier about trying to change someone. You're not going to be able to change someone if they're showing you these behaviors early on. Then maybe
Believe
that's
them.
not the person that you want to be with.
Mm. I
So
forgot who said that. I heard someone. I think it was it Oprah or Maya Angelou? One of them said, um, "What the person show you when you meet them, when you believe them." They said, "Believe
right,
them. Whatever you
right,
believe them."
right,
Because I think that is one of the misconceptions that I too have observed that, and I was doing. I didn't even know I was doing it. That's another thing because um, when we go into this relationship and we see these red flags and we see these misbehaviors, right? That's a word, right? Yeah, misbehaviors, right? And instead of saying, "Oh no, this is where we draw the line," instead, what kicks in is like the nurturing. What kicks in is like the oh God, but I can't. Oh my God, they need so much help, but how can I leave them? Or oh my God, like I gotta. Oh, my heart touches. Oh, we start giving and giving and giving ourselves, not knowing that, first of all, okay, in it, without you unconsciously, what you're trying to do is change that person,
right,
right? And then, second of all, what people don't know is when you get that individual used to that kind of behavior, what in their mind, what they're actually translating is that it's okay. What they're doing is okay.
right.
So we might want to like check some things, get like Marcia Lewis said, let's make our standards our deal. They can be deal breakers as
Mhm.
well, and there's nothing wrong with we're not saying curse people out and punch them in the face, but if you need to give space because space is useful, space, time away is useful. It can be very helpful. Do that. It doesn't mean you hate them. It just means, listen, I love you, but I love myself just a little bit
Right.
more, and it's okay. You get to live for another fight. You get to stand for another fight. And on that note, ladies, we made it. We made Was it hard, y'all? Was it hard? The random questions I threw out there, was it hard? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes,
It
it
wasn't
wasn't hard.
hard. It was it, you know what? Let me not say it wasn't hard. It had me thinking real deep before answering, but they were very good questions, Nora. You did put some effort in your question.
Why, thank you.
They were a good question. I was expecting like, what's your favorite color?
Oh
But
no, honey.
those were some very thought provoking questions. But yeah.
Exactly. I thank you. Thank you for saying that, ladies, because these actually are questions that a lot of them I came up with, but then there are questions that speaking with people and reading and stuff like that I gather as well. And so yeah, thank you, brave women. I appreciate you as usual. Thank you so much for
You're
coming on,
welcome.
being transparent and sharing, sharing yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're sharing yourself to empower others, to encourage other people. And I thank you so much for that. Remnants, Kimberly Lynn, we spoke about, for those who weren't with us in the beginning, she has a book of poetry where she poured, that's another platform where she poured herself into. And so, following a follow up post, I will put the information where to go buy the book to support. And on that note, remnants out there, thank you. I appreciate you all as well for your support. Please, 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 as I always encourage, open your mouth. Open your mouth. Please open your mouth. Tell your story. Be transparent. Let people in on, what you've gone through, because it's definitely a matter of life and death for some out there. And on that note, I will announcement. There will be no Speaking Our Truth next Sunday. Next Sunday is Easter. I want you all to spend as much time as you can with your family, because I know I will on such a glorious day. Yeah. And I'll see you the week after. All right. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank